You mentioned your faith earlier.
Yes.
Would you be able to talk about that?
Oh, faith, man. I was raised in church, right? But I didn't learn who Jesus was until I was in my 20s. I was actually working in a school, working with youth, and I was reading the Gospels like for the first time. I was a Proverb and Psalm guy before that, Old Testament guy, which is cool. But I was reading the Gospels and I got through Matthew and I started learning about this guy, Jesus. And I remember calling my wife at the time, we were newly married, and I would say, yo, babe, this guy, Jesus, is different. She said, what do you mean? I'm like, yo, he's dope. Like, he's a renegade, right? And she's like, yeah, right. She's like, all right, okay, whatever. Like, cause that's a crazy call. You're like, what are you talking about, right? Everybody knows Jesus is dope. Like, nah, you don't understand. I'm reading and he is dope. Like, he ain't with the mess. Like, he ain't what these people talking about. He ain't no religious, guy hiding behind no cloth. He really out in these streets, right? This is how I'm communicating with the vernacular to how I talk, right? And so I'm learning Jesus like he was a man of the people who was vulnerable, who exposed himself to his community first. And boy, did they take advantage of him. I mean, literally, he stopped and asked people often, why do you follow me? Is it because you love me or for the things that I do for you? That's a huge question. That's a huge ask, right? And as a young leader, you got to look around like, yo, why are these people around? Right? Why are they here? Right? Yeah. And then you look through the passion of Christ and you learn these things about, like, man, like he had disciples that he did everything for. I mean, risked lives, saved lives, brought their, healed their family, fixed their family, fed them when they were hungry. And even him had people that betrayed him, like to death, right? And people that were like turning their back on him. And like people that said, no, Jesus, I would never turn it back on you. I'm like, this guy is a gangster. Like this guy is like the original, world global gangster, right? He's the guy that, we went against the Romans. Like who goes against the Romans?
No, you die.
Just Jesus and Spartacus. That's it, right? It's just those two guys, right? So I'm learning about this guy. I'm like, man, he's freaking amazing, right? So I'm gonna say before that I was a churchgoer, but I didn't become a Christian until I was in my 20s, right? Actually a follower of Christ. Like this guy, Jesus is amazing and it's dope, right? So my journey now is really just trying to emulate as much as him as I can, right? He was a trendsetter. He took risks. He did things sometimes that weren't favorable. Like there was going to be an outcome. There's times where they told Jesus, hey, just stay here. It's comfortable. Like everybody here likes you. He was like, what? I got to go. You don't know who I am? Jesus, right? There's people over there that hate me, hate God, hate themselves. I got to go over there and rescue and save those people, right? And, I'm not him by any means, but I try to emulate and try to learn as much as I can so that I can go through the barrier of fear. It's easy to stay in your comfort zone, right? But Jesus never did that. He always pushed the envelope to go somewhere further and further and further, and to spread the message that the kingdom of God is at hand and that we really should just love each other. And, hate and envy shouldn't be amiss, but hate and envy came from him heavy, bro. And as a leader, all of us will come a time where hate and envy comes for us. I mean, people closest to us will turn their back on us, stab us in the back, give us a kiss of death like they did Christ. And I'm the man that says, well, if they did it for Jesus, why don't I think they would do it for me? Like I like it. Like I'm definitely not better than him. And if people betrayed him, you don't think they would betray Paige? I'm just Paige, right? So just Paige, right? So that's it, man. So yeah, faith is very, very important. COVID came and shook some things up for me and my family. We haven't been going to church as much as we used to, right? And I've seen the differences in some areas of life. And then my heart is to get back into doing those things. My sons, they're in music, I'm pretty sure they'll end up playing some music in the churches or in our church when we go back into the church more often. We were routinely, twice a week goers. And since COVID happened, when they dispersed from church for a period of time, we really haven't dove back into the church. But I still am big in, the faith as far as like giving and offering things like that. So, yeah.
What's the difference in your life when you do go to church versus when you don't, like in terms of maybe community or the way in which?
Yeah.
How does that affect your life?
Yeah, man. So I would say that, your vantage point is a little different. When you're in church, you're seeing the troubles of fellow churchgoers, right? Believers, so to speak, right? And non-believers that are in church, right? And you have the empathy and sympathy for them. You're embracing them. You're praying for one another. And when you're not going as often, you're in the world and you're taking on the sometimes sympathy, empathy of the world, which is a lot. Right, the troubles of the world are so much more than the troubles of the church. I mean, people go through so much on an everyday basis. Just me sitting here in my restaurant, people will come in with the biggest woes, right? Which is good because that was the evangelistic task that Jesus had. He didn't stand in the synagogues. He went out into the streets.
Yeah.
And that's where he met the lepers and the blind and the deaf, right? All that stuff wasn't in a synagogue because they won't let those people in, right? So it's almost the same way now. So now we're like fully exposed to, the world, the sins of the world, the worries of the world, and it can wear you out. It can wear you down also. So, almost got to be prayed up, fasted up, and have a strong support team around you. And, so that's really it.
What were some of the, if you don't mind me asking, some of the, you mentioned how as perfect as Jesus was, well, he was perfect, people still betrayed him, and there's still like negative people hating on him.
Yeah.
How has that been for you, and how have you handled things like that?
Oh man, there's lots of people that I've given the shirt off my back to, literally. Housing, fed their family, showed them how to make money for their families, and sacrifice things that I probably wouldn't sacrifice if I would have known what I know now. And those people have turned their back on me and talked about me and done all types of things matter against me. And those things hurt. I mean, they do hurt. For a second, it stings you and it makes you want to say, dang it, I wish I wouldn't have done all that. But then, I look at Jesus. Jesus' attitude was never like that. He said, you should pray for those who hate you. He said, that's what makes us different than the non-believer. He said, the heathen can love those who love them and treat them nice, but our job is to love those and treat those well who hate us. And it can be tough, right? It is tough. That's why they say it's the passion of Christ. And it took me a long time to realize that the passion of Christ wasn't just him getting beaten and drug around with a cross. It was the people that he looked at as brothers, when it came down to the crucifixion, turned their back on him and said, I don't know this man. That's pain. Yeah. And it happens, bro. And, right now we're going through a similar passion moment right now where people that I poured everything into are really just taking, aim and target. And, I'm a big guy, so I'm a big target, but heavy is the head that bears the crown, right? And, I believe that, no weapon that's formed against me shall prosper, but I understand that weapons still will be formed.
Yeah.
People still will shoot shots, but those shots that hit will not kill me. And I'll fall and get back up 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 1,000 times, or however long it takes, so that my children will know that, all glory goes to God, and, righteous man continues to rise. So that's really it. So, Jesus is the example for me. There's other prophets and things in our scriptures. I spend a lot of time even, talking to brothers from the Muslim faith and even the Jewish faith. And, they're talking about their prophets and things. And we're sharing stories of prophets. And I realized that God just had a whole lot of men that were just wickedly faithful out here. You know what I mean? And Jesus came down and doubled down with a stamp like, all right, this is how you do it. If you just stay as close as you can to this walk, you'll be all right. And I just want to stay as close as I can. I'm a man, I fall short, right? Every day, every single day. But the goal is just to get better every single day. Yeah.